Part 1. The demand for war. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest political hall in the known universe. Its ceiling stretched higher than any cathedral on Earth, and its walls were carved with glowing stones from distant stars. Every corner of the room was filled with sound, alien voices, sharp, booming, clicking, and humming. Delegates from dozens of species sat in their places, their eyes and antennae focused on the center platform. Today was not a day of peace. Today was the day war was demanded. The Zerath Dominion had called the meeting. Their king, Lord Kravthor, was one of the most feared rulers in the galaxy. He was tall, armored in plates of black bone, his voice deep enough to shake the walls. His people lived for conquest, and for centuries they had taken planets by force. Until now, no one had dared to oppose them. But humanity was different. Earth had joined the Galactic Council only 50 years ago. But in that short time, humans had grown in power, trade, and influence. Their ships moved faster than expected. Their colonies spread quicker than predicted, and their warriors had already proven themselves against pirate fleets and border raiders. The aliens had thought humans were soft creatures of water and air. Instead, they saw a species that adapted to everything and feared nothing. That was why King Kravthor stood before them, his chest swelling with anger. "Humans are dangerous," the king thundered. His words rolled through the chamber, translated into dozens of languages at once. "They rise too fast. They refuse to bow. They must be chained before they strike first. I demand war. Either they kneel to the Dominion or we crush them where they stand." A roar of approval filled the chamber. Many species who envied human progress shouted their support. The council's floor trembled under the sound. A few alien races remained silent, uncertain, but no one dared to challenge the Dominion openly. At the far side of the platform, a single human rose. He was not a soldier. He wore no armor, carried no weapon, and brought no guards. His name was Ambassador Marcus Hale. He had been chosen by Earth to represent humanity in this most dangerous council. Unlike the other delegates, he was calm. His black suit was plain. His hands rested quietly at his sides, and his face carried no anger. When the alien eyes turned toward him, they expected him to argue loudly, to shout in defense of his people. Instead, he remained silent. The Zerath king glared at him. "So this is the human answer? A quiet man who says nothing? Do you come here to beg for mercy, Ambassador?" Marcus looked at the towering figure, his expression unchanged. His voice was soft but steady. "I came to listen." That simple answer made the chamber stir with laughter. Some alien delegates shook their heads. "Pathetic," one insectoid delegate buzzed. "Humans send a whisper against a storm." Others leaned toward one another, mocking Earth's choice. "Perhaps they are weaker than we thought," muttered a scaled ambassador with a cruel grin. But not everyone laughed. A few eyes narrowed. Those who had studied humans more carefully knew silence could be dangerous. Soldiers who fought beside humans in skirmishes whispered of their patience, of their ability to wait for the right moment. Yet most of the council dismissed Marcus as a coward or a fool. King Kravthor slammed his staff against the ground. The sound echoed like thunder. "Human, I give you this choice. Submit your species to the Dominion as servants or watch your worlds burn. You will not survive a war against us. Decide quickly." All eyes turned again to Marcus. He did not rush to answer. Instead, he let the silence stretch. The translator machines buzzed quietly, waiting for words to capture. Finally, Marcus spoke. "Earth does not bow," he said simply. His tone was not sharp, not loud, but it carried across the chamber. "We do not seek war, but neither do we fear it. If you come for us, you will regret it." The hall erupted again, this time with outrage. Some shouted that the human was arrogant. Others laughed at his boldness. King Kravthor leaned forward, his many eyes burning with fury. "You dare threaten the Dominion?" Marcus did not blink. He did not raise his voice. "I only state the truth." The king's roar shook the hall. "Then so be it. We will march upon Earth. We will show your species what true power is. The Galactic Council has heard my demand. I call for a war!" Many delegates raised their claws, tendrils, or hands in support. The council leader, a neutral being of crystalline form, tried to calm the chamber, but it was useless. The decision was clear. War was coming. Humanity was surrounded by enemies, and their loudest voice was drowned in alien calls for conquest. And yet, in the middle of that storm, Ambassador Marcus Hale remained silent. He neither argued nor shouted. He folded his hands, his eyes calm, as if he had already accepted the outcome. Those closest to him felt uneasy. His silence was not weakness. It was something else, something hidden. The meeting ended with chaos still echoing in the chamber. The Xerath king left proud and confident, believing he had already won. Other alien delegates rushed to make deals, to position themselves for the coming war. Only a few glanced back at Marcus, still standing quietly in his place. He whispered 2 words almost too soft to hear. "Understood," he said. Then he turned and walked out of the chamber, his footsteps steady, his face unchanged. No one could see what he carried inside, but the few who did notice his calm felt a chill, because sometimes silence is not weakness. The corridors of the Galactic Council Palace were filled with noise after the meeting. Alien diplomats rushed to their ships. Messengers carried urgent orders, and news channels broadcast the words of the Xerath king across every world. War felt certain. The Dominion had spoken, and most species believed humanity would soon be crushed. But in the middle of the storm, Ambassador Marcus Hale walked calmly. His steps echoed softly against the polished floors. No fear showed on his face. He moved as if he had no concern in the world. To anyone watching, he looked like a quiet man heading back to his quarters. In truth, he was moving toward something far more dangerous. Marcus had been chosen as ambassador not only for his ability to speak, but for something else. On Earth, there were secret divisions trained for moments like this. Men and women who could fight wars without firing a shot, who could end threats before they began. Marcus was one of them. His weapon was not loud. His victories were not seen. He walked past guards of different species, nodding politely, his human eyes unreadable. No one stopped him. Who would suspect a man dressed in plain clothes? He looked fragile compared to the armored aliens with claws, tusks, and heavy weapons. But Marcus carried tools hidden in his suit, woven so finely that scanners could not detect them. Small devices no larger than a grain of rice rested in his cuffs, ready to disable locks, sensors, or weapons. On his collar rested a barely visible patch, nanotech linked to his nervous system, enhancing his focus and precision. As he reached the private wing of the Xerath delegation, Marcus slowed. The halls here were darker, the air thicker. Dominion banners hung from the walls marked with the symbols of conquest. Guards stood tall, their bodies wrapped in black armor, their faces hidden behind bone masks. Marcus waited in the shadow of a pillar. He breathed slowly, his heartbeat steady. Then he touched his cuff. A pulse of sound too high for alien ears spread through the hall. The guards blinked, staggered, then collapsed silently. No alarm sounded. No one cried out. He stepped past them without a sound. Every move was calculated. He knew the palace schematics by memory, and he knew the routine of the Dominion. Humans did not always fight with muscle. They fought with patience, study, and silence. Inside the royal chambers, King Kravthor prepared for celebration. He had dismissed most of his attendants, confident in his victory. He paced before a mirror of polished crystal, admiring the glow of his bone-plated armor. In his mind, humanity was already broken. Soon his fleets would march, and Earth would be another jewel in his crown of conquest. But outside his chamber, Marcus approached. He placed a device against the massive door. It hummed softly, rewriting the lock in less than a second. The door slid open without a sound. The king did not hear it. Marcus stepped inside, his face calm, his body relaxed. The chamber was large, filled with weapons, trophies, and banners of war. The king turned, expecting to see one of his servants. Instead, his many eyes narrowed in surprise at the sight of the human ambassador. "You?" the king growled, his voice low. "Why are you here? Have you come to beg for mercy again?" Marcus did not answer. He stepped closer, his shoes making no sound on the polished floor. The king laughed, a deep, cruel laugh. "You are brave, little human, to enter my chamber alone. Do you think I will not crush you with my hands?" Marcus stopped a few steps away. His eyes never left the king's, his voice was soft. "Your war is over." The king opened his mouth to roar, but in that instant his body stiffened. His chest trembled, his many eyes widened. He stumbled, trying to raise his staff, but his strength drained from him like water slipping through his fingers. He gasped, his massive frame falling to one knee, then to the ground. Marcus had not moved quickly. He had not drawn a blade. He had only pressed a small patch between his fingers as he approached. The air had carried invisible particles, too small to see, too precise to detect. They slipped past the king's natural defenses and into his body, shutting down his heart in silence. The Zirath king, conqueror of worlds, lay still on the floor. His eyes stared wide, frozen in disbelief. There had been no struggle, no cry, only silence. Marcus stood over him for a moment. His face carried no triumph, no anger, only calm. He whispered once more so quietly that only the walls could hear. "Your war is over." He turned and walked out, leaving the chamber as quietly as he had entered. The guard still lay unconscious in the hall. The door closed behind him, hiding the fallen king from sight. By the time alarms began to blare minutes later, Marcus was already walking down another corridor, blending with the flow of diplomats in attendance. When Dominion soldiers rushed past searching for intruders, they paid no attention to the quiet man in plain clothes. He returned to the council chamber with measured steps. The delegates were still gathered, arguing, their voices rising in heated tones about fleets, borders, and declarations. Then messengers ran in, their faces pale, their bodies trembling. They whispered to their ambassadors, who froze in shock. "The king of the Zirath Dominion is dead." The news spread like fire. He was found in his private chamber. No sign of struggle, no cause of death. The council erupted into chaos. Delegates shouted, some in disbelief, others in fear. How could the most powerful ruler in the galaxy fall so suddenly, so silently? If the Dominion could not protect their own king, who among them was safe? And in the center of that storm sat Marcus Hale. He had already returned to his seat, a glass of water in his hand. He sipped slowly, his expression unchanged as if he had never left. While others panicked, his calm grew heavier, more unsettling. Some aliens glanced at him with new eyes, realizing his silence might be the loudest message of all. The war was not over yet, but the first battle had been won, and it had been won without noise, without fire, without armies. It had been won with silence. The council chamber had never seen such chaos. The news of the Zirath king's death spread faster than light. Delegates whispered, shouted, argued, and panicked. Some stood frozen in shock, unable to believe what they had heard. The most powerful warlord in the galaxy, a conqueror feared for centuries, was gone, and no one had seen how it happened. Messengers repeated the same words again and again. He was found in his chamber. No wound, no battle, no sound. He is simply gone. The Dominion's representatives, nobles in black armor, roared in anger and fear. They accused everyone in the chamber of betrayal. Some demanded vengeance. Others looked terrified, as if the walls themselves might be hiding an invisible assassin. Their king had been untouchable, or so they thought. Now he was dead, and no one could explain why. And while the galaxy shouted, one man sat quietly. Ambassador Marcus Hale leaned back in his seat, his face calm, his glass of water untouched on the table. His hands were folded in front of him. To anyone looking closely, he seemed like the only person in the room at peace. His silence was heavier than any words spoken. Finally, the council leader, a crystalline being whose body glowed faintly from within, struck the floor with his staff. The hall trembled, and the voices slowly dimmed. "Silence," the leader commanded. "We must restore order. The Dominion will speak first." The Zirath nobles rose, their bone masks glowing faintly under the chamber lights. One of them growled, "Our king is dead. Murdered, this is war. We will not rest until his killer is destroyed." Dozens of eyes turned toward Marcus. Whispers spread across the chamber. Could the human be responsible? No one had seen him leave. No one had seen him act. And yet some could not stop staring at him, as if their instincts already knew the truth. Marcus did not flinch under their gaze. He placed his hands flat on the table and finally spoke. His voice was soft, yet it carried across the hall. "Humanity does not seek war," he said. "We asked only to be left in peace. But you chose threats. You chose conquest. Now your king is gone, and you realize the cost of forcing war upon us." The Dominion noble slammed his fist against the table. "You dare!" But Marcus did not raise his voice. He simply continued, his words steady as stone. "Earth will not bow. We will not be chained. If you attack us, you will learn how quiet we can be, how silent, and how final." The words spread through the chamber like a cold wind. Silence followed, not the silence of peace, but of fear. Delegates looked at each other, unsure what to say. Humanity had not shouted, had not threatened with fleets or weapons. They had not fired a single shot. And yet a king had fallen. Some races, those who respected strength, lowered their eyes. They understood. Others, who had hoped for humanity's destruction, felt a chill. If one man could end a warlord with silence, what could an entire species do? The Dominion's nobles growled and argued among themselves, but even they looked shaken. Without their king, their fleets would not move easily. Without his command, their power was already breaking apart. The council leader finally raised his glowing staff again. The council will not allow war today. The Zereth Dominion must choose a new leader before speaking of conquest again. Humanity remains a member of this council, and Earth remains free. The decision was final. The chamber settled, though uneasily. Delegates still whispered, still watched Marcus with wary eyes. He had spoken little, but his silence had become louder than all their voices. Marcus stood. He adjusted his plain suit, his expression calm. As he walked out of the chamber, the crowd parted for him. No one dared to block his path. Even the Dominion guards, furious and trembling, did not move. He passed them like a shadow, his footsteps light, his eyes forward. In the corridors, news broadcasts flickered on walls. Every channel reported the same event. Zerath King found dead, council in shock. Images of alien commentators filled the screens, their voices hurried and tense. Some claimed it was a curse. Others said it was a hidden weapon. A few whispered the name of humanity. Marcus ignored them all. He walked slowly, breathing deeply, his face unchanged. He carried no joy, no pride. The mission had been simple: prevent a war before it began. He had succeeded, but victory in silence was heavier than victory in battle. When he reached his shuttle, his aides stood waiting. They looked nervous, their eyes filled with unspoken questions. None of them dared to ask. Marcus simply nodded, stepped inside, and sat down as the engines began to hum. Through the small window, he looked out at the stars. Endless darkness stretched before him, filled with light from millions of suns. He thought of Earth, a small blue world far away, fragile but unbroken. A world worth protecting. As the shuttle rose, Marcus closed his eyes. His work was not to fight with noise and glory, but with patience and silence. And in that silence, humanity's true power was revealed. Closing note, the story of that day spread across the galaxy. Some called it a mystery, others a warning. But one lesson remained clear. Humans did not roar like beasts. They did not crush with armies alone. They moved quietly, spoke softly, and acted with precision. And sometimes silence was the loudest weapon of all.